Good evening and welcome to the May 25th meeting of the Fairport Central School District Board of Education. I'd like to start with the opening items and a call to order, please. Thank you. In the event of any emergencies, we have 4 identified exits. Please exit carefully and calmly out of those exits in case that happens. I'm going to 1B, which is the approval of the agenda tonight. Do I have an approval of the agenda? Motion that the district. Damon moved, second. Marty, all in favor? Aye, thank you. Brings us down to communications, school student advisor report. Jackson Dietz, this is your second to last report.
All right, good evening, everyone. First and foremost, I would like to congratulate Dr. White and Mr. Forsgren on your respective election and re-election to the board. I have 100% confidence that this board will continue on the great initiatives set surrounding educational programming, fiscal sustainability, and facilities planning. I also know that this was a very important election to our students. Our students have been focused on progressing our diversity as a district, expanding our slate of electives and opportunities, and working towards a most equitable and positive culture for all of our students. This election and the budget passed are essential to carrying out what serves students best. This month at Fairport High School, we have been busier than ever. AP exams, spring sports, and the musical have been real highlights this month. In addition to more proactive efforts like COVID screenings, testings, and even our vaccination clinic in partnership with the County Health Department, will help make June our best phase yet. Next month, we'll be even more busy, but it will be even more positive. In June, we have our award ceremony, our junior prom, senior ball, senior bash, and our graduation. Once again, I would like to thank you guys all for having me here tonight. I always look forward to coming, and I would be happy to take any questions or comments from the board members or central administrators.
Any comments or questions for Jackson?
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackson. Much appreciated. President's report. I too would like to welcome Dr. Mary Caitlin White to the board, and Peter, continuation on in your position. I would also like to thank the community with the 5,000 plus people who exercised their right to vote. That the community came out and they voted, and that was important. Please continue to exercise your right to vote. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Brett, Superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. I do have about 20 slides, but I promise it won't seem like that, or maybe it will. There's just so much to talk about. Jackson, you're 100% right. So many great things happening in our schools. You said it perfectly this past weekend. It was amazing. If you didn't get a chance to see it, it was the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee over at Parrington Park, and using the Arboretum there. It was amazing and breathtaking on many levels because our kids were performing. They were highly engaged. The amphitheater was packed, and it was 2 great nights. I just happened to come from the first performance in over a year and a half that Joanna Perrin Middle School, our orchestra, was performing. I had the opportunity to say hello and welcome and express our note of appreciation. And these are our students performing outside with family members there. Wow, it was something to speak about. And that's, the essence of what we're trying to do. You go to our playgrounds, kids are smiling. Our K-6 is here every single day. That's going to prove to pay huge dividends as we go into the fall. And more performing arts will be coming. Director Pam Serrani, who in part does direct our music department, works collaboratively with our music teachers, following all the guidance and making it come to life, and greatly appreciated. And of course, to our educators who are leading it and showing so much care and passion around it. It's just inspiring. The budget votes, we did make mention of it earlier, 74% approval rating with our budget. It is the highest one that I've received to date in my finishing my 6th year as superintendent of schools. That was encouraging. The vote had the most participation in recent memory based upon our records, with close to 5,000 participants or community members. 85%. Also approved the board's expectations for use of technology and the technology reserve fund, and that was a central component. And of course, congratulations to Peter Forsgren. How many years is it now, Mr. Forsgren? Complete 9 years. Thank you. Thank you for wanting to continue. And congratulations to Dr. White. Looking forward to sharing time and learning with you in this capacity. Welcome aboard. What did we affirm last week? The board had clear expectations about educational programming, culturally responsive learning environments, instructional technology, and facilities planning. Their ultimate goal is always to meet students where they are. This board always pushes me to talk more about what does that actually mean. And Erica, I did add a little more color, okay? You know, we talk about our lower class sizes. We know why it's so important to engage and have meaningful interactions with our students. This board, this is finishing my 6th year, has always made this a priority. Coming out of a pandemic, coming into a full year of school, even more so. How we're going to continue to do that through our budget and through the use of our federal funds we'll be talking about. In Fairport, we give health K-12. Okay, that is not mandate. We are above the mandate, but it's not above our priorities. The board has always made it about healthy life choices, and I'm proud to be a part of this. We will be talking about K-12 health over the next year that our students will benefit from. We have an incredibly dynamic and talented music program. We vertically interact with our students, which means that they are going to meet a music instructor early in their elementary career. And if they're in an ensemble, they're going to go up with them through 12th grade. It's a model program. It's produced incredible results, but that's an investment and it's a board priority along with our visual arts that we provide our students with capstone opportunities, enrichment opportunities throughout the continuum. Mental health services is always a priority. This board says that mental health is the priority before learning can occur. We got to make sure that we're socially and emotionally connected and engaged to our environment. This budget that was approved allows us to have 30 plus mental health professionals, including our counselors, psychologists, and social workers. Co-curricular activities, that's our clubs. We have over 100 clubs in our district. We know, because that's research-based, if students are connected to their environments. Some kids come to school for the club, and that's okay because it connects them and engages them and makes them part of the community. That's an investment. Summer programming, we heard that that was a priority, and the board made an investment in a comprehensive summer programming, even adding summer programming for students coming out of the school year into the summer and to the fall. Technology, hardware, and technology coaches. We realize that we need to continue to make this a priority moving forward. We will be using the general fund and our reserves to do so. We also have technology coaches to help build capacity with the tools of technology. There's lots of learning to take place, high levels of investment. It's our community hope and expectation, and it aligns with our strategic initiatives. In our elective programs, take a look top right, Fairport High School electives, 11 business classes, 10 technology classes, 9 art classes, health, 11 English, science, and social studies electives, 8 math electives, 10 world languages. That's because the board believes that students need to find their voice. And these electives give an opportunity for our students to choose a path and to develop their intuitive curiosity. The electives, the Fairport offers up to 98 electives. This does not account for the honors level courses in the core areas or our world languages. We have a commitment to BOCES, where our students engage in CTE programs. And I didn't do a good job last time explaining what courses that they take, but anywhere from visual communications to childcare to culinary, nail and waxing, cosmetology, medical care, emergency services, IT and network, welding, car purchasing, and criminal justice programs, just to name a few. Career and tech education will also be talking about Industry 4.0. Mr. Buffum, I know that will get you excited. Industry 4.0 is quantum mechanics, IT automation, data science, Internet of Things, AI, virtual reality, big data, etc. These are all things that our BOCES commitment, which is embedded into our budget, allows us to provide our kids. Our community agrees. 377 people participated in the thought exchange survey. There were 262 thoughts and close to 6,000 ratings. This thought exchange or this survey is exponential to the ones that we've had in the past. Okay, so 5,000 voters, more exit surveys to give us an algorithm and understanding. Top thoughts include quality education. Quality education for our children, that's why people vote. And that's why people participated. And that's why there's a 75% approval rating. Our community thinks, again, a top thought, that our children of Fairport deserve the best in programming, facilities, and of course our educators. That's an investment. The investment in our children is critically important as we aim to continue to remain competitive in a rapidly evolving global, that's key, interacting throughout the world. These are our community members saying this. Education is important, including science and technology. Understanding all cultures and people, it's important. That is not what the new curriculum teaches at all. These are the bottom thoughts. These are thoughts that were not top thoughts, but they were thoughts, and all thoughts matter. This board understands that and cares about what all community members think. Immigration and the Holocaust history needs to be part of CRT, or it shouldn't be taught at all. Again, this is what the community said. A good education for our children is critical to their future and that our community and that of our community and country. Again, it's a thought that wasn't reinforced, but it was a thought out there. Trust in the existing board. Kids very well need the money. My children graduated from Fairport. They received a quality education. The future belongs to the children, and they must be prepared for what life brings. The differences speak to where are there potential opposites or conflicting points of view. The side on the left, or side A, is where the majority of the thinking was landing. The side on the right, far right, are what people have thought. They're the opposites. They weren't receiving high ratings, but they were receiving some voice from our community. And of course, what's in the middle is what people have in common. Again, quality of education, our educational program, including making sure our children are prepared for economic and social world they enter, that's a priority. We need to redefine K-12 public education systems and what they look like. We can't use a model that has developed over 100 years ago. And people all agreed that education is important, including science and technology. Mass mandates for outdoor activities are oppressive and not in line with the science. Again, this is reading the algorithm, the total opposite, but it is a thought, and it's a thought that some community members had. Requiring student athletes and spectators to wear masks outdoors when they are socially distanced is heavy-handed and unnecessary. Again, that policy has changed over the past couple of weeks. If you have attended those outdoor events, you'd be able to see that if you're a vaccinated individual. The information I received from friends and neighbors, that was where people mostly got their information. That's one side. The kids in Fairport deserve the best programming and facilities and teachers. Again, a common thought. Enough bickering from teachers and administrators about alternatives. Move voting from JP. Parking is atrocious. Again, good feedback. Our schools have done an excellent job keeping students and families safe this year while engaging students in a wide array of learning opportunities. I support education of our children. They are our future. This is where there's agreement. For my children, they deserve the best education. I'm glad my kids are done with Fairport schools and won't be exposed to brainwashing that the students are going through right now. Fairport is not a racist community, but a few vocal racist bad apples are quickly poisoning our community. Again, just a thought. It's an opposite thought from the thought on the other side. In Fairport, this is my 16th year finishing up in Fairport. This idea of civility, awareness, and respect and embracing differences has always been at the core of who we are. It's not brand new. It's not something that just popped up. We've been talking about embracing differences since the moment I was sitting in those same seats, 16 years ago. And it's played out in many different ways. The Board of Education core beliefs in 2014 talks about taking civic responsibility, being caring and respectful individuals, becoming healthy contributors with a lifelong desire to learn. Our students have been and will continue to be prepared for the next phase of their life in a global competitive world. These were written in 2014, and it's been at the core of who we are. One of the main reasons why I moved my family here when I became superintendent, actually. A district goal, again, it's in essence, it has stayed the same. It's been tweaked, but it's always talked about diversity, equitable, accessible, and diverse outcomes for each student, making sure that our programs and our curriculum and instruction and learning environments promote equity, access, and diverse outcomes for each student. Again, not new. The vision, not new, since I've been superintendent of schools. Speaks to having students participate and be active contributors to a diverse society. Ensuring access and equity is in our mission statement with our programming, which we just went over at length. I'm really proud of these ideas and vision because it expands beyond school and into a greater world and environment. Again, not new. In 2018, New York State came up with cultural responsive sustaining education. These 4 pillars, as what they're called, it's just good teaching. 27 years in education. It just doesn't make me old, all right? It makes me understand what quality teaching and learning, what quality programming looks like. We want to make sure all of our school members are safe and welcomed in our schools. All of our students. That's what this board is about. All students. All of our students should have access to high quality experiences. All of our students. All of our students need to be engaged in meaningful curriculum. They need to see themselves in their curriculum. It's not just one perspective. It's multiple perspectives. That's what this board expects and what they've always expected, and that's what we continue to build upon. Letting students' voices be a part of their educational journey in Fairport. And we have a responsibility to support our educators in achieving this endeavor, building capacity, making sure we do it in a thoughtful way moving forward. Recently, in April, the Board of Regents adopted a framework. It speaks to high quality governance, teaching and learning, family engagement, diversity in our workforce, in our learning opportunities, and how we support our students in our schools. And it just so happens, last year, we confirmed what I call our big rocks, which align wonderfully to the Regents framework. I realized I need to do a better job of communicating this moving forward. And this will be the focus of our conversation on how these ideas that are fundamental to good teaching, that are timeless, that transcend eras, are a part of what we do here. They are part of the curriculum. They are part of the conversations that we have with our families, the programming that we offer, how we offer it, and how we develop capacity internally. Curriculum and instruction, recruiting and hiring, parent, community, and student involvement, data in our policies, and professional learning are our big rocks, and they align wonderfully to the culturally responsive framework and to the standards. We'll be talking more about that as we move forward, but it's embedded in what the board has been setting its sights on. We've also been setting our sights on Fairport Forward capital improvement project. It's exciting. Construction begins next month. At the end of June, we'll start phase 1A. It begins at the high school. We'll be replacing the existing stadium turf. It's past its useful life. And the construction of the new multipurpose field, which was approved in 2018 by voters. In July, we'll begin here at the high school renovating the cafeteria and the kitchen. infilling the courtyards and science classroom renovation work. Again, all part of a capital project that was approved in December of 2018. We'll be talking more about our facilities planning, but that's exciting. Along with all the great things that we're seeing and how we're moving forward and how we're planning for the future, lots of great things. That went by really fast for me, and I hope it was for you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity and for giving me the opportunity to share this report with the board.
Thank you, Brett. Peter?
I hate to throw off our rhythm, but I'd like to propose just a slight amendment to the agenda or just some leniency to talk, Joyce, about our food service visit. If you're willing to talk a little bit about that we had this past Friday and to sing praises to their name, candidly. if people
Anybody
will.
on the board object to Peter and Joyce giving a few seconds to describe their visit last Friday to the food service area? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Peter.
Yes, sorry, I should have mentioned and asked for this on Friday after we visited, but we did visit with food service personnel on Friday, and it was just a good time to remember all that they've done since this pandemic hit. And I know we have our representative Christine here. Did I get the name right? Suddenly I doubted myself. Thank you. But we met with Michelle and then Carolyn, right, at JP, and we learned JA, Jefferson Avenue. I'm sorry, and it was incredible when you think about the nonstop, because schools closed down and because we knew people, children, students were dependent on those meals. Food services did not close down. They did not close down during the summer. There was not a break. It was year-round for a group that's perhaps not used to that, and really grateful for the efforts. And what we learned as well is I'm not supposed to use certain words, right? To a degree, they had to be flexible and pivot. Are those the two words you didn't want us to use because you're so tired of them? But constantly changing and how to keep food safe, follow guidance. We call it guidance, but requirements and individually wrapped things and how much cellophane had to be used and all the different changes that have been made. It's really has been a tremendous heroic effort and perhaps a little bit unsung by us here at the district. That has been going on for so long, and could see in the eyes of some that they're looking forward to a summer break this year. So thank you for all that's done. What did I miss?
Well, they also educated us because they informed us about the new laws that will prohibit the use of certain like styrofoam and different containers, and how that's going to affect their budget and what they can even serve, which breaks my heart. They right now don't have proper cup for soup, and they may actually have to remove soup from the menu if they can't get a proper container to serve the soup. Who would think of, I'm sure when those laws were passed, it was with good intentions for the environment, but all the unintended consequences of things like that,
I thought you were going to say no more Taco Tuesday. Exactly. You know, Nate.
There
Taco
might be a
Tuesday.
revolt for that.
Oh,
But I may
absolutely.
revolt on soups. That's my favorite thing. They make such delicious soups. So they used to purchase locally. They'll now have to go to China to order these dishes and things, unless some companies ratchet up change what they're producing and everything. So it gave me some more information for when I go and advocate with our legislators. That's a new list that I'll be bringing with me. So I appreciate them educating us on those things that I wasn't aware of.
I think some of the logistically that they pointed out too, where flexibility and pivoting, sorry to keep using that word on you. When you think about it, right, students who were every other day or twice a week, in order to not duplicate a meal that they might be sent home with, they had to alter the calendar, which, most of us don't even think about. We don't give it a second thought, so that children didn't have to have the same meal 2 days in a row. So they're really thoughtful about the recipients, right? They put a lot of thought into it. And so it's just those types of things that they did to try and be as not just responsible, but responsive to the real life situation, and to make sure as many students as possible did not go hungry. So thank you to our food services staff for all that you have done over the past year. It's been tremendous. And like I say, perhaps unsung to too little, too much, whatever the word is. Appreciate all that you've done.
It was so inspiring to see throughout the summer, throughout last year, our food service every single day coming in hundreds of meals a day, distributing them with our transportation department who also participated. So you're right. We can never say it enough.
To our fully remote students during the school year, getting deliveries out to them, right? Things we never had to do before, but trying to make sure that they did not go without.
Great. Thank you, Peter and Joyce.
We also had lots of fun at JA all the way around.
All the way around.
Good.
In the classrooms and all of that.
Great. Thank you both. It brings us to communications 2D, treasurer and investment update. Mr. Stevens.
Great. Good evening and thank you. Tonight we have the March of 2021 treasurer and investment update for the general fund, among other funds, but focus on the general fund. We had a beginning cash balance of $76.2 million. Receipts during the month of $17.7 million, mostly focused around our state aid payments coming in. Disbursements of $9.4 million for an ending cash balance of $84.6 million. Of the 84.6, we've got approximately 83.4 invested in a mix of the money market, insured cash sweep account, and CDARS accounts, which is about 99% of the funds remaining in the investment. We know the rates at these times and that liquid aspect as well. So that's why we are able to have such a high amount spread across a few different institutions. In terms of our revenues and expenses year to date, compared to prior year, right on track in terms of the revenues, around 117 million for current year. And then for expenses, about 78.4 million in expenses. And we'll see those start to kick up towards the end of the year. We have large pays in June, et cetera. Food service, just to add a little bit as we look at that, I know it's been a topic of discussion as we've progressed throughout the year, just to highlight a little bit. The food service budget has started to see a little bit of a increase in funds as it relates to the K-6 student population being back in the buildings. We've seen an increase in the participation overall back to levels of what we're used to seeing in a normal school year, around the 2,000 to 2,500 average meals per day for lunch. Up from about 1,300 when we were, at the fully hybrid process. So outlook for the food service fund, if you remember last year, it had a huge loss of a little over 300,000. Hopefully on track for a smaller loss this year, hopefully in the 100,000 range projected. So that's been able to sustain with the funds it has in the fund. But I just want to give a quick update on that piece as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Stevens from any of the board members? Okay, that brings us down to number 3, donations. I need a motion that the Board of Education approves the following donations. Donations for the Fairport High School Auto Club, a 2006 Nissan Murano valued at $5,500, donated by Charles Russell, and a 2006 BMW X3 valued at $4,000, donated by Brett Little. Do I hear a motion, please? Mary Caitlin, second. Damon, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. For the people watching, we have an auto shop program here that most high schools don't have, and it's quite an amazing program where the students are taught all different types of auto repair, both body and mechanical, and it's a really valuable asset. I've known many of my former students who have gone and taken just basic consumer auto, how do you just take care of a car, to getting in there and really tearing it apart. So some of our students then go on to the BOCES program because our program is not extensive enough. So we thank the 2 residents for donating those vehicles so that our children have those vehicles to use as tools as they're learning this very valuable course of study. Thank you.
My daughter's taking that class this semester and loves it, but you're right. It's just thanks to those donations makes it also very possible, cost efficient for us.
It does. Thank you, Peter. Brings us to number 4, the consent calendar. As you see there, those items A through H. I need a motion to approve the consent calendar, please. Peter, second. Marty, any discussion? All in favor? Aye, thank you. Brings us down to number 5, personnel actions, starting with 5A. Mr. Loft, do you want to have anything to do with this, or would you like me to go through it first? And if we have any questions, to defer to you.
Sorry, just turn on my microphone. Obviously, the first one, A, is very important, hard work by a number
Before we have discussion, let me go through and get the motion on that.
Yep. But assume Superintendent Provenzano wanted to speak to this.
I'll let either one of you once we get the motion on the floor here. Motion to approve the attached tenure appointments as recommended by the Superintendent of Schools. I need a first motion, please. Joy, second.
Second.
Marty? Any discussion? Mary Caitlin?
I just wanted to share that I'm going to abstain from this vote. I was not part of the discussion, and I'm sure everybody coming up for tenure is highly qualified, and I'm very excited for you to be here, but I don't want you to think my abstention is in any way approval or disapproval. I just don't have the background on each candidate.
Thank you for that explanation. Thank you. Mr. Luff, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, tenure is not just something that's given here in Fairport. It is earned. And this administrator and these teachers have certainly worked hard through a rigorous process and have proven themselves certainly worthy of earning tenure here in our district. So proud to call them colleagues.
Great.
We'll be recognizing and celebrating these recipients if and when approved by the board in September. It's a new way that we've been doing it, and it sort of starts the year off in a celebratory fashion. So
I would suggest, can somebody read off the names? Just
Be glad to. Yep. So we have one administrative candidate. So Mr. Dennis DeRosers, who is Director of Elementary Special Education. And then we have 6 instructional appointments, teachers. Jolene Caselli, who's Family and Consumer Science. Sean Miller in Reading. Jessica Nichols, Special Education. Rachel Pellegrino in Math. Shannon Soin, who's English to Speakers of Other Languages. And Nicole Yadanza in Reading.
Great, thank you. Brings us to a vote. All in favor? Aye, that's 6 and 1 abstention. 6 in favor, 1 abstention. Instructional budget. The motion to approve the following instructional staff actions as recommended by the Superintendent of Schools. I need a motion, please. Erica, second. Peter? Any discussion with this? This is the time of year when we start to see a lot of different changes in our different employment because people are leaving, people are retiring, people are coming on. And throughout the summer, we have a lot of changes in employment. So this is a hefty list, and it's continually changing. So I applaud those people who have been hired here. And there are quite a few part-times, full-times, long-term substitutes, teachers on alternative education, parenthood leave of absences. So it's the whole gamut, and that is listed in the agenda. Vote, please. All in favor? Aye, that's 7-0. Thank you. Athletics. A motion to approve the following athletic staff actions as recommended by the Superintendent of Schools. I need a motion, please. Damon, second. Erica, any discussion on this? There are just 2 positions here, and they're volunteer coaches and 1 who is a full-time coach. All in favor? Aye, thank you. Non-instructional and civil service, a motion to approve the following non-instructional and civil service staff actions as recommended by the Superintendent of Schools. I need a motion, please. Marty, thank you. Second, Joyce. Any discussion here? Mary Caitlin?
Network administrator, I'm assuming that's an IT position. I was just wondering.
correct, it's an IT position.
Anybody else with questions regarding this? A lot of paraprofessionals and change of assignments. People are moving. A lot of times at end of a school year, certain students who need special assistance move to different buildings. So the staff has to move with that person, or they stay at a building. We have to hire someone new for a staff. So there's a lot of change that goes on between now and September.
We also have some retirees on here that are worth acknowledging. Haley Buck, Buildings and Grounds, and Kristen Cuccia, who's a cafeteria aide at Brooks Hill. And their service is always appreciated and admired, and definitely a part of the fabric of who we are as an organization. Congratulations.
Thank you. And Mark. Yep, that's right.
Where's it?
Mark Finnegy. Yep, Finnegy. Yep.
missed that.
cleaner at Northside, Mark Finnerty, who's been there many years, I think.
Yes,
Yeah, Mark is,
Mark Finnerty retiring. I had the pleasure of working with him for many years and wish him the best.
Mhm. All in favor? Aye, get 7-0, thank you. Personnel agreement. Click the wrong button. Motion that the Board of Education approves a written, I just messed it up here. Let me try that again. Motion that the Board of Education approves a written agreement between the Fairport Central School District and an employee of the district executed by the Superintendent of Schools on April 19th, 2020. It did not sound right. The superintendent did not execute somebody. This is going to be executed by the superintendent. It didn't sound right. We need to change the wording of that in the future. I need a motion, please. Erica, second, Peter. Any discussion on this? Okay, thank you. We need a vote. All in favor? Aye, thank you. That's 7-0. Thank you. Memorandum of Agreement. Be it resolved that the board approves the memorandum of agreement between the district and the Fairport Administrators Association dated from May 14th, 2021. This is regarding the administrators and their vacation days. Normally, vacation days have to be used by the 1st of July. And due to the extenuating circumstances that we were under this past year, a lot of our administrators did not take any vacation time. And we're extending this so that they can use that vacation time through the month of August. So we're extending it 2 months so that they do have the opportunity to take that well-deserved vacation time. And that is not, we do not need a motion on that. That is resolved, that the board approves the memorandum of agreement, correct?
Yeah, I would just add a comment of appreciation for the hard work.
Yes. Everyone's worked hard. Our staff, our teachers, our administrators, our bus drivers, our secretaries, our parents, our students, our grandparents, our aunts and our uncles, the community. I mean, everyone has really stepped up to help these kids continue on and do the best we can. And we're getting back there. I'm very confident we will do that. Presentation 6A. It did not have a vote. It says
You have to approve the MOA.
It says, be it resolved that the board approves the memorandum. It did not have a motion. So I'll take a motion on that then. Again, that was not worded correctly. Mary Caitlin, second. Joyce, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We need to make sure that that's written differently, please. Thank you. Code of conduct, presentation. Mr. Provenzano, I'll turn it
So
over.
I'm going to invite Deborah Miles, our Director of Student Services, to come forward. This is really exciting in the world of code of conducts in our schools and how we're trying to create a mindset that supports the whole child in a restorative, thoughtful way. We look forward to creating and building a code of conduct over the next year, as Mrs. Miles, our Director of Student Services, will outline, and what are the tenets of this potential recommendation that will be coming up through next year. But also, we are in the mode of revising our current code of conduct, and we'll have a 30-day comment period after tonight for suggestions or input on our code of conduct. But I will have Mrs. Miles explain those details moving forward. So I will put your presentation up and we'll start with that.
Okay, thanks, Brett. So I will start, yes, with the presentation, and then we'll later go into the very few minor revisions, and you'll understand why as we go through this. So we have certainly been talking about revising our code of conduct, for a few years now, and every year we take a look at it and review the content, and sometimes change significant language around different topics, and other times just do some basic edits to clean up the code of conduct. So moving forward, though, we have reached a point where it is timely to actually do a comprehensive review of our code of conduct, and that comes in probably about year 3 of a 5-year implementation plan of restorative practices. And it was people were anxious about getting the code of conduct reviewed, and edited with restorative practices framework in mind, but it was really important that we laid the groundwork in Fairport with that first before changing the code of conduct so that we could actually live by the new language and the new mindset in which it will take. So as we head into this presentation, you'll see all the different aspects of what our new code of conduct will take into consideration with equity, resilience, social emotional learning, our DASA pieces, PBIS, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and restorative practices. So as I said, the purpose of and the intent of this work is to rewrite our code of conduct with the following components in mind: restorative practices, diversity, equity, inclusion, a multi-tiered system of supports. I gave the board a handout for what that will look like moving forward in Fairport. There's some pieces to that we'll talk about a little bit further, but when we first talked about interventions in Fairport and across New York State, it was often referred to as response to intervention. And so now we're looking at it through a different lens of multi-tiered systems of supports. And that includes both the academic and the behavioral responses to supporting our students as a whole. We'll also look at our social emotional learning. We do a lot of work in Fairport regarding social emotional learning. We have not adopted a formal curriculum for that. However, we will be doing a review of that this summer heading into next year for a formal curriculum for K-5 especially. So this is the piece that I handed out to the board. So this is our multi-tiered system of supports. And as you can see, important is the social emotional piece, the academic piece, and the behavioral piece, and the overlaps in which it engages between social and academic through our meeting structures that we use in our buildings. And they often look like instructional support teams as well as student support teams, and taking a look at those structures and making sure that they meet the needs of our students from a multi-tiered support system. Looking at equity, of course, and then between academic and behavior, looking at engaging tier 1 instruction. And then, of course, with the whole child in mind. So as we enter into the actual code of conduct work, this is a lengthy process, and because we don't want to rush it, and we want to make sure that we get all the right components in that. But there'll be many stakeholders who will be able to take part in this work, facilitated by myself, but will include additional administrators from the elementary and secondary buildings, our mental health lead teachers, our Title I Equity and Access Coordinator, teachers, Board of Ed members, our Safety and Security Coordinator, parents from our PTAs, our Diversity Council reps, students and community partners such as PRA, Partners in Restorative Initiatives, BOCES with Ms. Tasha Potter, and University of Rochester Medical Center, because we have a very strong collaborative relationship with them, and the Children's Institute. Our timeline purposely will go throughout the entire school year. We will have monthly meetings that will consist of educational activities and work groups specific to the code of conduct. In May and June, I'll identify our stakeholders and set our meeting schedule. And then from July 2021 to June 2022, those monthly meetings will develop the code of conduct with smaller work groups as needed in between. Our meeting timeline and structure. So for our first meeting, it will talk about the introduction and organization as to why we're doing this. Our next meeting will review data throughout our district that will support the work that we do around the code of conduct and the work that we need to continue doing across our district in terms of restorative practices, DEI, social emotional learning, all of those areas. Our next meeting will then take a look at our current code of conduct. After that, we'll come back together to review other code of conducts from other districts in the area or as far as Syracuse or greater. In November, we'll develop our code and definitions. So that's where we'll start to put together our writing and reframing of ours. And then in December, we'll push that work out to different stakeholders and then accept feedback back to the committee. In January of 2022, we will draft our code of conduct. In February, we'll present to our leadership cabinet, which is our administrators and directors across the district. In March of 2022, we'll push it back out again to stakeholders for feedback and processing. In April 2022, we'll do a final review of the code of conduct. And in May 2022, present back here to the Board of Education, put it out for public comment. And by June 2022, Board of Ed approval, ideally, for the following school year for it to go into effect. So as I stated, you can't just alter a code of conduct with all of those things in mind and expect everybody to just implement it with equity and consistency. So it's important for the district to continue their work in the area of professional development for restorative practices, for diversity, equity, and inclusion, looking at the culturally responsive sustaining framework, trauma-informed care, and social-emotional learning. 2 of those pieces will be accomplished through our Teachers Day 187 this summer, where everyone will take part in a 3-hour restorative practices training and a 3-hour culturally responsive sustaining framework training. Of course, if you look through our code of conduct, you know that it also aligns with a number of different Board of Ed policies. So as part of that work, we need to make sure that we review those policies throughout the process and make sure that they align to the new language in the code of conduct. And then to set the stage for this work, we return back to school. Hopefully everybody's in person, K-12. And we kick off our school year with 4 opening days for our staff. The first day, we'll have our superintendent's message, of course. The second day, we'll have a presentation. We're proposing a presentation from Partners in Restorative Initiatives to talk about restorative practices and equity. On day 3, we will invite our University of Rochester Medical Center partners to come and talk about trauma-informed care and how that impacts our students in the classroom and in relation to discipline as well. In our code of conduct alignment, and that's obviously more important now post-pandemic than ever. And then on day 4, we'll take a look at social emotional learning from a perspective of punishment versus development, and look at some transformative social emotional learning pieces.
So that was supposed to happen this past year, but we've been in this little pandemic, right? And Deborah Miles has been planning and organizing, getting thoughts around it, building partnerships, reinforcing the plan. But at the end of the day, she's also been contact tracing, supporting the training and implementation of the Department of Health standards, setting up clinics and testing, monitoring COVID testing sites in our schools, wearing many hats. So thank you. And I know that you've always kept this at the forefront and you continually be an advocate for it. But I think it's important that we recognize that she's planning with the idea of embedding this into a professional development learning plan, right? So it's not done unto, it's done with, it's done thoughtfully and methodically, and then wrapped up into future programs and future professional development when we're onboarding new staff and when we're continuing, always reviewing and working with our staff to develop capacity and awareness under the principles that she just shared. So thank you for thinking this through. But that's for the future, when I think it's important that we keep our eyes on the future. But for the now, we have a code of conduct that still works. It's still legal, and there's some quality practices in there that will translate nicely to next year. But I know that there'll be some things that we're going to be working on and cleaning up the code of conduct. But in essence, that document won't see substantial change like you're going to see within the next year. But Mrs. Miles will take a moment to speak to that, and I'll get it up while you do that.
Sure. So, and really brief edits, nothing too contextual, but we added a few things this past year because of COVID. So, so the question is, do some of these things need to remain? And we may need to keep them in until we know a little bit more this summer in terms of what is expected of us as we return to school. So are we returning to school full time? Are we returning to school with a masking policy? Or are we back to normal in September and not having to manage that piece? So on page 2, that would be some of the question in that first statement that was added to just reinforce, social distancing, masking policies and things like that that occurred in response to the pandemic.
The state is unpredictable, but not our resolve to return. We will be back full-time, 5 days a week in the fall.
And then another piece that's coming up, right, in our state and community is the piece about legalized marijuana. So the question is on page 14, do we add an additional statement there to reinforce that while this may become legal for 21 and older, we still as a school district would uphold the code of conduct that would not be permitted on school grounds. So we can consider whether that language needs to be there or if we want to consider different language for that.
And nothing, prohibits us from going that route.
Nothing prohibits us from going that route. Obviously, for our students, it won't be legal.
Right.
For our visitors, we still have the right to say that it doesn't come on school grounds. And, for our parents, we just want to emphasize to our parents that for students, developing adolescent brains, this is not, just because it's legal doesn't mean it's safe and good for kids. So on page 18, there's another reference in there regarding COVID and whether we need to keep that or not, and pertaining to the other alcohol and drug protocols in terms of some of the steps that we take with our students and that not having access to them over the past year because of the pandemic. And then again on page 35, I repeated the reference to legalized marijuana under possessing, obviously, illegal drugs and other substances on school property. And that was it. So again, like really minor changes because we're not really looking to do too much until we change the whole intent of the code of conduct and making sure that it provides equity for our students, consistency for our students, and that we're thinking about the whole child when we're writing a code of conduct and taking into consideration a number of factors.
I think, Deb, even the name code of conduct implies that this is just a bunch of rules, right? It's just a list of requirements that we have in terms of behavior, and it's really so much more that you're building here. And the next step is really going to be really key to where we're going with a lot of key initiatives, and it really defines just how we want to evolve the framework and the culture of the district in terms of not only behavior expectations, but how do we adapt and how do we align, how do we deal with each other, and restorative practices I think are really important. And that professional development is really key to making this really work. It takes it from the piece of paper into actually what's happening in the buildings. And I think that's good.
Right.
So thank you.
For sure. And after that, we'll have to look at how we train our teachers around the code of conduct, but how we also train our students around the code of conduct with a new mindset in place.
I just want to thank you. I've had the privilege of working with Ms. Miles on the diversity, equity, and inclusion over the past year. And I am just so excited about these changes to the code of conduct because we would bring different things up and we're like, we got to go forward with this. And she would come back and go, we are, it's coming. Like COVID threw a wrench in the plan, but we are moving forward. And you have been so mindful of the work of equity in this revamping. So I'm just very excited to see this come forward.
Thank you.
I'm excited how it's scaffolded, right? And it's very thoughtful about how we phase it in, how we embed it into our culture and our mindset. And it'll be natural. And those pieces that I spoke about earlier about care and, the vision and mission of the boards aligns perfectly to this. So I look forward, the board members will have an opportunity to be a part of it. There'll be frequent updates throughout the year. Again, I think we talked about having 2 board members represent just to be a part of the process, and you can report back on where we are, and you'll be kept abreast and see it evolve.
Excellent. All right. Thank you.
So this will go on a 30-day public comment period, which will be posted on our website beginning tomorrow. All comments could be directed towards Ariel and in the district clerk's office. Her email will be present. So please stay tuned for that, and we'll be reporting on it.
Any other comments, questions from any board members? Okay, thank you, Deb. Brings us down to 7A, policy first read. Motion that the Board of Education approves the first reading of the following policies. Number 3110, district website and web pages. Number 5633, gender neutral single occupancy bathrooms. Number 3430, school safety and the educational climate. 3412, threats of violence in school. Do I hear a motion, please? Joyce, second. Erica? Any discussion? All in favor? Yes, Mary Caitlin, thank you.
I know this is our first read, so we're going to have to do this one again. I would like to see that the website policy includes information on making sure the website is accessible. I know there's a lot of programs to make sure that websites are readable for different members of the community, so I just would hope that that's part of this as well.
And Joyce
It's in
and
the
Damon,
works.
Joyce and Damon, you are on a committee that's
It's in the
looking at the
works.
website.
That was my very question about.
Damon, is there anything you want to add to the website? If you do, put your microphone on. Put your microphone on, please.
Yeah, we're just starting that subcommittee. I mean, we've had one meeting and I know that we're working hand in hand with Tom. So I think that's an area that we'll definitely keep in mind as we go forward.
Great. Any other questions,
There's-
comments?
And when you say accessible, right, what does that mean, right? There's definitions of accessible on devices and languages and so forth. So we'll think about all that.
You mean you don't have a simple, easy
Yeah.
checklist on that?
Ask Tom to do it. So.
No, I
Yeah,
just
right.
wanted to make sure that, yeah, that was at the forefront. So thanks,
Great.
Steve.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Can you vote on that, please? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's 7-0. Brings us down to policy second read. Motion of the Board of Education approves the second reading of the following policy. Number 1640, absentee ballots. Number 7515, mask and face coverings. Do I hear a motion, please?
So moved.
Marty, second. Mary Caitlin, any comments or questions from the board? Discussion.
We talked about the mask and face covering policy last week before it went into place, and that I'm pretty clear on that one. The absentee ballot, though, had a few different options there, which I thought for a second read will be closer to a finished product. I was a little confused on what we're changing on that one. Like,
Comments?
there was a lot of red, and there was different options available. So.
Anybody? Would you like to not have this as a second read to have more further discussion on that, Damon?
I mean, some of the red has been crossed out. so
Yeah,
that-
I guess there's.
It's
blue
driven,
dots,
it's
right?
driven in law too.
Yeah, it's
So-
in law. It's what we have to do. Because we keep a list of voters. I believe that was the thing that you questioned last time was we do keep a list of voters. And so I think it was pretty much stating what we have to do.
And there were two to pick from, essentially.
So I'm sorry, I'm just unclear. Which one are we picking? Like which one is going to be upheld for our absentee ballots?
Yeah, there's in yellow, there's an option 1 and an option 2. And I wasn't clear which option we were going to settle on.
Option 2.
I think because there's some confusion here, I think we need to not approve this as a second read, and I think we
Well-
need to spend more time on this.
I think it's because we utilize poll lists, I
Right.
believe. So we would be option 1.
Option 1, basically,
Right.
right, yeah. But
That's what I
Do-
remember being the
Yeah.
crux of our discussion is
Right.
which way we were
Right,
having the
because we keep
list. done.
lists from year to year.
so based on that, if we did move forward, everything from option 2 on down is going to be deleted from our policy. Is that how we're understanding this?
Right.
I'm going to say that we table this one because there's too much confusion.
Okay.
And it needs to be clarified. I don't want to put anything through that's not clear and concise. So I need to have an amended motion, please, to only approve for a second read the policy of masks and face coverings number 7515. Who made that motion?
Well, I'll make the motion to amend.
Well, I think the people who made the motion have to amend it. Ariel? Okay, Marty, would you like to amend it? So we're only going to approve second read for the 7515? 7515.
7515 tonight.
And Mayor Caitlin will second that amended motion. So we are going to table the absentee ballot number 1640 for further discussion. Okay, everyone in favor? So we're just approving the 1 second read tonight. Okay, do I hear a vote? All in favor? That is 7-0 aye. Thank you. District-wide safety plan, motion that the board approves the district-wide safety plan as attached. This was presented at our last meeting by our Director of Safety and Security, Mr. Monahan. And that was a public hearing that we had for that, and no one spoke at that public hearing regarding that. So this is a motion to approve that this district-wide safety plan. I need a motion, please. Mary Caitlin, second. Erica, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That is 7-0 aye. Thank you. Damon, did you vote aye on that? Thank you. Brings us down to 7D, school-sponsored field trips. This is a wonderful thing to see again. Even though this field trip was just across the street, at least it's a field trip. Motion to approve the following list of curricular field trips and extracurricular field trips as attached. And this is by a group of 6th graders from Martha Brown to walk across the street from Martha Brown to the cemetery that sits up just north of the school for some science related to look at weathering and erosion on different types of materials, particularly the stones. So I need a motion to approve that field trip. Joyce, second. Erica, any discussion on that? Mary Caitlin.
Is there a reason this field trip already happened and it's now coming for board approval? I'm very excited the field trips are happening, but it makes me concerned that
So
if it's not board approved. Are we in a liable situation?
So what happens
Thank you for
is
bringing
there's
that up.
times, thank you for bringing that up, definitely. There's times when things come to fruition and we're able to make something happen. And even though this board really makes it a priority to try to make sure that we have it before it happens, there are times, just because of the timing of it, there wasn't a board meeting. We didn't want to have them miss the experience, and it's just retroactive.
I would like to add that we really try in the future to make sure that all of these things are approved before any events occur. That's just from a record keeping standpoint, from a liability standpoint. Thank you for pointing that out, Mary Caitlin.
Is there a liability issue?
Their students are going off school grounds. They're crossing the street.
There's always a liability issue, always a liability. And I think it's just good order and good business. I think what Dr. White was just speaking to, and Mr. Sliz was reinforcing that we really try to make sure that this happens before the event, but there are times saying that then it's just not possible. Sometimes there's subs that are hired for long-term purposes that we don't have a board meeting. I know that the board ultimately wants these things to occur, and I will approve these on these special circumstances when they do occur.
And to that point, those who have a longer history than me in the 9 years, it has been greatly reduced. It used to be much more coming to us on an agenda after the fact, and I appreciate that you reduced it, but always the direction, right, to try and do it in the right order.
Any further discussion or comments, questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. That's 7-0. Brings us down to 7E, 2019 Capital Improvement Project Construction Testing Services. I need a motion to approve the Paradigm Environmental Consultants Incorporated and SJB Services Incorporated to provide construction testing services for the 2019 Capital Improvement Project. Need a motion on that, please. Peter, second. Erica, comments, discussion.
Seems new. What is this?
This happens in every capital project because of the size of our project. Just thought it'd be appropriate we issue POs. We do our RFP process in terms of air monitoring services that has to take place for the capital project, pavement testing, concrete, those types of pieces that happen in every capital project. But because of the size of the project, felt like it'd just be good and appropriate to get the two vendors that we'll use, here on the books.
But
overall.
testing for what to make sure the specs, state level, what?
Do air analysis if there needs to be any air testing or air monitoring.
But you still
those
like
different
concrete,
pieces.
I assume make sure it's cured appropriately or.
Correct.
Yep. Yes.
Both, and the testing is both for demolition and construction.
Yeah. Entire project.
It's all.
It's only as needed throughout the project.
Right.
Is this something that had to be bid out, or is this just, we've used them before, we know that?
We get proposals. So the
Okay.
construction manager will get requests for proposal. It's not required to bid it out because there are a slew of different pieces, such as having somebody here on site for half a day. There might be hourly, there might be a testing analysis piece that it's a fixed, cost on those pieces. So it's a list and menu of different services that take place throughout the project. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens.
Any further comments, questions, discussion? All in favor, please. All right, it's 7-0. Okay, that brings us down to number 8A, comments from board members. We'll start over here with Joyce. If there's anything you'd like to say or comment on. Your microphone, please.
It was already said, but I too appreciate all the voters that came out and getting our budget approved so we can move forward, and that welcome Mary Caitlin, and I'm thrilled to have Peter not miss a beat and stay with us. We'll keep our work going.
Thank you, Joyce. Erica?
And I would say the same thing, just regardless of, the outcome, just thank you for participating as community members. I think it's great to see so many people actively involved in finding out more information that has to do with board members, also the budget as well. So I know we put a lot of time trying to get people engaged and attending those budget meetings, and I guess we'll keep doing it.
Thank you. Peter, anything further you'd like to comment on?
Also express my gratitude. I mentioned back in 2012, July, which we have nobody ever attend that July meeting, right? The reorg meeting. And so it wasn't the best audience necessarily, but I remember stating how impactful it was to have people vote, and to vote specifically in this case was for me back then, and how I found that it had changed something about me. And other things gave me greater courage to asking questions, to speak out in ways that I had not typically done. And that was renewed this time, right? With the turnout, again, the highest other than last year where everything was absentee, the highest turnout we've had in my 9 years. And the number of people that participated on both sides, and I appreciate, Brett, your presentation that recognized that, to do our best to continue to look and use the lens of every student. Each and every student. We say that a lot at our meetings. We say that a lot, especially at our workshops. There's not one to be left out. It's nothing we do perfectly, but the going through the process has an impact. It's just no doubt it has an impact on me. I think it does on each of us here, where you just feel that responsibility, the weight, the mantle, whatever you want to call it. So I appreciate it. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you, Peter. Marty, anything you'd like to share?
Just that it's wonderful to hear that theater and music performances are back in place, and our one small field trip there. Very unusual, second May in a row that this room isn't packed with proud parents and students to be honored. So very much miss that and hope to see that next year.
Thank you. Damon, anything else you'd like to add, please?
Well, congratulations.
Microphone, please.
Congratulations again, Peter. Congratulations. Great election. Really, the turnout was immense and awesome, and it was great to see a lot of people are engaged, and I think learning about the process. Right. I do think that if we are introspective though and honest with ourselves, and I think you recognize this, Brett. We need to do a much better job of communicating. Right. And I know we do it in multiple channels and venues and social media sites and so forth, but I think that there's opportunities for some misunderstanding. So I think that we can do a better job of trying to concisely articulate what it is we're trying to do. So I don't have a solution to that. I know that that's an effort that we'll make. So looking forward to that. I would say as well as really focus on the slide that you put up tonight, Brett, about all the amazing things that are happening in the district, right? And all the electives that we're offering and all the things happening at the K through 12 level and inside the buildings. Inside the classrooms, the teachers and administrators and students are doing really awesome things. And the best part of our role is those monthly visits to the buildings or the departments, right? And to see the work that's happening and see the outcomes and what's happening with the children. So that's great to see. I was able to attend the outside play last week, and it was awesome to have a theater in the park in Fairport. That was great. And the last thing I'll just call your attention to, this came in the mail today. the onboard magazine that we all get and normally put it in the recycle bin. But there is an article on page 3. Regions SED provide new resources for DEI initiatives, right? And this is what we're talking about, right? And it's really a good discussion about the framework that the state's putting forward and the pilot activities that are happening in the districts around the state. But the one thing they mentioned is that they're going to be offering a new degree or graduation, a seal of civic readiness, right? So if you participate in these courses and do some community work and project-based activities, you can graduate with this new civics-focused seal, which I think is pretty cool as well, right? Take from your high school experience a really civic-minded focus with your graduation degree. So encourage you to take a look at that on page 3.
Thank you, Damon. And Mary Caitlin.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to our community for turning out in such numbers to make your wishes for the future of our district heard. It was empowering to see so many invested in the future that we want for our kids and for our community. I'm very honored that you selected me to serve on this board, and the weight that Peter just mentioned, it's not lost on me. This is a huge responsibility, and I thank you for your trust. And I promise you my dedication and my integrity in this service. And I just really look forward to working for this community.
Thank you. One question I do have, does anybody know how Odyssey of the Mind worked out with their macarolling? Because there were so many people in line. I know that the lines over at the food trucks were long, even though one of the food trucks did hit the police car. And we've got that.
I think it
Bill,
went really well, right, Lisa? Yes.
Great.
You were out there passing waters.
Oh, yes.
That was great.
It was great. It's always good. I know through all voting, we've always had one of our school organizations either having a chicken barbecue or some type of a fundraiser, and it's been very, very helpful and very supportive for the students. And
Yeah,
they like to see the community come out to support them. Thank you.
Do we know final numbers at all?
Well, we don't have any public comments at this time,
that's
so
true.
I am going to ask.
It's a good amount.
Great.
I can share it after, and I will just mention that lots of our teams are going to be finding out how they did in virtual worlds for Odyssey of the Mind this
great.
weekend as well. So
Great.
fun stuff.
Well, along that line, Tim, I think sooner or later, a comprehensive list of all the fundraising that goes on for Golisano Hospital. I know through our various bargaining units they do, and the money, and then you have Dollars for Scholars.
Mm-hmm.
I am always astounded, multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars that flows through this district in addition to whatever's done. It's all out of the goodwill, the things that are done. I would love, I'm not asking this, by the way, necessarily, just sometimes I think it'd be amazing if we indeed had some type of comprehensive list of all that is done through the fundraising and the organizations that benefit from it. It has been amazing.
Well, yearly we do collect those lists, and we definitely,
Do we?
yes, we do, and we make it part of the business, the official business here, so we can spotlight them throughout the year when they do occur. You'll see social media clips. Periodically, I'll put it in my report. But if we want to do something more to highlight it, I think it speaks to our caring heart and Fairport community. Excellent point.
And a lot of these fundraisers are derived and created by the students. They're the ones who say, let's do this for this cause. So it's a majority of them are student driven.
JA has one. I got it right this time, right? Not JP. JA has one going on right now. By their first day, they had arrived at $18,000. They were hoping to be somewhere much lower than that, just on the hope side, and they had exceeded it by day one. And I can't imagine where they are.
What is this fundraiser for?
Just the running. Is this
right?
Yes, my son's doing it at.
Yeah, I think it's all the elementary schools that are doing the running.
Oh, the running. Okay.
Yep.
Or virtual. Okay.
Yeah. I will call out on Facebook. Jefferson Avenue has children introducing books and doing book reviews. Those are awesome. Have you guys seen those? Yeah. They're so well done, really, and I really encourage you. I mean, I don't know if you use Facebook at all, but I mean, those little kiddos, and they do their book reviews, and it's really awesome.
It's great.
Well, when we were at JA, the big excitement was for this fundraiser. Teachers, principal, assistant principal are going to get pies in their face. And no matter what anybody tried to have the kids tell us about, they wanted to tell us about the pies. It always came to the pies.
Any other comments from the board members? Okay, that brings us down to number 9, executive session. Before we ask for a motion for executive session, I want the public to know that after we come out of executive session, we will simply come back to open session to adjourn the meeting. We will not be coming back on a live stream or on video. We're simply exiting executive session, and then we will exit and we will adjourn the regular meeting. So we will. With that being said, I'd like a motion to enter into executive session for the matters related to the potential employment and compensation of individuals in collective bargaining units, contract negotiations related to a particular bargaining unit, employment and compensation of non-collective staff members, performance and evaluation of personnel in a collective bargaining unit. And Brett, there was one more you wanted to add to that?
Matters pertaining to student discipline.
Thank you. And invited to participate in the executive session are Brett Provenzano, Matt Stevens, and Doug Loft. Do I have a motion, please? Erica, second. Marty, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, with that, thank you for joining us this evening. And we look forward to seeing you in our June meeting, which I believe is June 15th. Thank you.